Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
About how much bigger your job and the problems of the supply chain get if restrictive measures are relaxed too soon.
We talk every day as a team. We're aware of the chessboard, and the president is trying to balance all the competing needs, the public health care crisis, as well as the economic issue. Please remember two things. President Trump was the first world leader to take definitive action early when he pulled down those China flights on January 29th. And I say to you with a heavy heart here that the Chinese Communist Party cost this country and the rest of the world 6 weeks of preparation because they did not tell us early to mid-December that there was a crisis of human-to-human transmission with a new novel coronavirus, and that has set the world back 6 weeks. So we are dealing with this issue every day. We have the full force of the federal government. We have the full
but
power
Peter, in
of
fairness, the government was clearly ill-prepared for this.
For their full
the government
cooperation.
was clearly ill-prepared for this. This is not something that, these viruses happen and how awful they are, but there are things that happen. Your government knew in the summer when it did a drill that if this happened, this would be a problem, and there was a lack of preparation, which is why we have you on to talk about the supply chain.
Sure.
Right now, it looks like the capacity for the U.S. is
that?
going to be about 200,000 ventilators, and what experts are saying is that there could be 1 million needed. So are you going to be able to meet that demand? And are you aware, and is the president aware that relaxing restrictive measures is going to mean that you need more than that?
Let me bring you up on the history here of what we inherited. In 2009, when the Obama administration had the H1N1 flu crisis.
Peter, why are you wasting your time on this and not solving the problem that you have? Peter, why are you even talking about this?
You made the claim that this administration was ill-prepared. I am trying... Run the tape.
Fact,
I just
Peter.
heard that. Run the tape. You just said that.
Peter,
now let me respond to that.
I'm asking you. If you're going to be able to get to
Brianna,
1 million ventilators.
I'm trying to respond to you, and you keep interrupting me.
My question, Peter, is: are you going to be able to get to 1 million?
Let's just have a conversation here. You keep talking in my ear, and you won't let me talk. May I speak, please?
Will you answer the question? Can you get to 1 million ventilators?
The question. That wasn't the question. You started by saying this administration was ill-prepared. Let me explain something to the American people. This whole stockpile, which was engineered for basically a 100-year flood, and we've got here with the coronavirus the 500-year flood, and that's the problem. We have woken up to the fact that we did not have adequate material in our stockpiles, and more importantly, all of our supply chain is spread out over the world at a time when 10 out of the top 20 countries that provide us with pharmaceuticals are imposing export restrictions. So we are running as fast as we can to get the people of America what we need. We are surging incredible amounts of material into places like New York. As we speak, We are having the most rapid industrial mobilization since World War II. We are doing the best we can, but don't tell me that we were ill prepared for this, because we inherited a system of testing, we inherited a system of stockpiles that was woefully inadequate for this, and there was plenty of people the last two administrations who had wake-up calls, and they went back to sleep. That's not what we're doing. We're going to fight this this virus, and after it's over, we're going to be stronger.
I'm just going to tell you, you're wasting
prepared.
everyone's time. You're wasting everyone's time with this. It's 2020. The president was elected in 2016. Can you get to 1 million ventilators?
First of all, that number is way, way, way out of proportion.
What can you get to then?
We are going to do our best to get the ventilators we need as quickly as possible, and we have GM and Ford repurposing factories for that purpose.
Do you have, like, I'm just trying to get to the, do you have a projection of how many you can get to?
Sending us ventilators. See, this is the kind of thing, Brianna. You go, oh, we need 1 million ventilators. We can't possibly get it. That's like wildly over what we would need. We are ramping up production, and we were moving as fast as we can, and we were taking that stuff off the assembly line.
Peter, that's from the Society of Critical Care Medicine. They said that that's a ceiling, but they say that's a possibility. And I mean, you have to know that, right? If you're the person in charge of the ventilators.
That's a ceiling, and that's a possibility. That's like the worst of the worst of the worst case. Okay, again, you're frightening America with that kind of stuff.
These are
we're working as fast as we can.
Peter,
hang on,
if you think that speaking in facts and truth is frightening to people,
from Philips,
you have a problem.
Why do you keep shouting in my ear? I don't understand. I'm trying to give you some numbers and answer your questions.
Okay, please.
Here, watch me answer the question. We got 43,000 ventilators at least that are come from Philips. We're working with GM and Ventec, and they may be able to produce as many as 80,000 by the end of the year. Ford and GE are partnering together, and there's 8 other companies on our spreadsheets where we're looking to get them to up their production or take whatever inventory they got. We are working really hard on this, and we are surging capacity to places they need it. And I think what's important for CNN here is to report this in a sober way without frightening America, and just having reasonable conversations when somebody from the White House comes on, instead of just shouting in our ear.
Peter, I will tell you that one way that I think a lot of people are calmed down is when they have information, and even if it's bad news or it's difficult news to hear, they know the size of the problem and they know that the government has a plan for it. That is what we're trying to get with you. You're in charge of the supply chain. That is the most pressing issue right now. I don't know that I actually have too much of a clearer picture having spoken to you today.
If I may, when you lead with your administration was woefully unprepared, do not expect me to accept that as fact.
And you said you were.
And not push.
You said you were prepared. I just had to.
It's not a fact, okay? But you should at least let me respond to it, okay? You go, oh, your administration is woefully unprepared. Now, how many ventilators do you have? I mean, that's a two-parter, right? So, I'll come on CNN anytime. All I ask is civil dialogue where I have a time to speak, and that we deal with the facts. And I would just keep asking CNN. It's like, this is the crisis of our lives. You will never experience anything like this again in your lifetime. And we need, as a people, to band together and work with this in a unified way, above party, above partisan politics, above ideology, and just solve this problem together. And if we get on TV and it gets sensationalized, you stir people up, it just leads to bad things. That's my point. We are working as hard as we possibly can with the full force of government and the full force of private enterprise, and that's the best we can do right now. We all, as a country, got dealt a bad hand by China.
Peter, that is just a waste of time to say that. I'm going to leave it there, Peter Navarro.
No, hang on.
We're just trying to get our hands around the. No, Peter Navarro.
Why is
that's
that a waste
We're out
of time to say that?
We're out of time.
It is Friday, the 27th of March of 2020, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. Hey, I got the French 77s already. Are we going to celebrate or drown our sorrows? Is it either or is it or? Have a seat. You're in the Bistro Cafe part of the salon right now. We'll get back to the chef's table after a little while. In the interim, we might as well fill you in on some news that's come our way. Oh my God, Boris Johnson says he has been infected, and he shook a lot of hands. So maybe this is an either-or situation as well. Either he actually has the coronavirus, not the coronavirus, COVID-19. It's just coronavirus, not the. Either he has it, and it's not something that we would want to wish on anybody. Or he does not have it, and in a couple of weeks' time, he'll come out and say, look, I'm perfectly fine. Everybody's exaggerating this. Let's get back to work. Let's open up our businesses. So this is the state that we are in right now. We don't know what the truth is because leaders who are supposed to be the harbingers of truth, justice, and at least here in America, the American way. I'm not expecting Boris to, of course, but I'm just using him as a foil. Our leaders have been continuously lying to us, and enough people out there are wondering, what the hell? What is the truth? Maybe it's not as serious as it is, and yet, how is it that our emergency rooms are being overwhelmed? And yet, our leaders are saying, oh, all those hospitals out there whining about how terrible it is, that's all fake news, shut up. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Burks, Deborah. She gets some hand-me-downs from Ivanka, and she was bad enough before the hand-me-downs. But when they got the dresser to dress her, oh boy, I gotta say, once she started wearing those Ivanka scarves and those Ivanka, I don't know, it's not soccer mom clothes, but regardless, it's the Ivanka line. Her psychophancy has increased beyond measure. And I'm not being hyperbolic. When I say beyond measure, I mean there is not a measuring tool in which to measure her psychophancy right now. Hospitals are lying and they need to shut up. What the hell is going on right now? Is this just a continuation of a coup? We already have the EPA, and we're going to bring that up. The EPA using the pandemic as cover. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's not just the EPA. We have any number of private businesses ignoring it or trying to make a profit. And I don't mean, just a regular profit. I'm talking about pandemic profiteering. We're talking about gouging people. So, I like to believe in the inherent goodness of mankind. Our fellows, our neighbors are inherently kind and good, and that is probably true. But if you are in the echelons of business, where lives are just mere numbers, and you can write off 3 million people signing up in one day for, it wasn't one day, but over 3 million signing up for unemployment benefits. We're going to call them slackers. All right. Get back to work. Our country wasn't made to be shut down. Well, our country wasn't made to have an idiot at the helm either. There was a certain presumption, shall we say, that anyone who rose to the top would have a certain abilities of intellectual capacity, not prone to conspiracy theories. This guy sees or hears something on Fox, and 45 minutes later, he's at a podium aping it, mimicking it. I don't want to insult the apes, I'm sorry. He's mimicking it, parroting it. I don't even want to insult the parrots. The parrots are much more intellectual than Trump. And it can be proven, too. So we have a constituency of people that are considerably, now I'm being kind here, considerably more intellectually disinclined than even Trump. That's why they voted for him, because he's a wise man, an intellectual by their standards. And so they look at you like you are the crazy one because you are saying, there's a pandemic going on. And people are dying in our little towns right now. For something that doesn't have much import, that is not that serious, there are a lot of famous people dying right now. That should be some kind of measure to reality TV watchers. But then they don't know who these famous people are because they never picked up a book. And they never expanded their horizons beyond reality TV, certain hours during the day, of course. People do have to go to work or stand in line to get their bad back insurance recipient pay. All right, vote for Trump. It's going to kill you. We all told you that was going to happen. But as Spacco said, I find no positive. I don't feel good about saying I told you so to a corpse. We've been warning about the fire. We said the fire's going to start. When the fire started, we kept saying, don't fan the fire. Don't add gasoline to the fire. The fire exploded and now it's burning up the whole block. And they're mad at us because we apparently are criticizing them. No, contraire. They're using this as an excuse. Let's be charitable here. They have a final solution. All those useless mouths to feed, the useless eaters, destroying our capitalism. My esteemed father, and I say esteemed because he is held so by his peers in his academic discipline. And he wrote many, many books on senior citizen rights. Old age politics, I think, is how it used to be termed back in the day. And the history of it. Even from before the ham and eggs movement in California. Before the Townsend Act. Way before California had Social Security that was modeled by FDR for the Social Security Administration we have today. And one of the things that we would speak about, my father and I, especially on those Saturday mornings when I was made to stand still in his study while he graded papers and read blue book essays from his students, and then in between such, he would then, maybe lecture me a little bit on the transgressions that I had perpetrated during the week, and that was my punishment. The punishment wasn't so punishing because Dad imparted a lot of not just wise fatherly advice, but actual academic outlooks. And one of those was that in industrialized societies, old people are a liability. In more agrarian economies, old people are considered to be part of, they're not a liability anymore, they're a benefit. In our more urban, mobile societies, old people are thrown away. They're a burden. Now, he wasn't saying that this was a fact. This is a result of things, and we can change that attitude and have old people, whatever that is graded at. I don't know. I used to think old people were 40. Boy, they're kids to me now. And so that we can change our attitudes about the elderly as not being a liability, as not being a bunch of useless mouths to feed. They are not useless. Shouldn't every life be precious? And I'm not talking about a speck of cells here. And yet, a speck of cells has more rights to life than an elderly person who's already been here, given oh so much, and in many cases taken oh so little. And at the end, they are coughing and hacking from a pandemic, and they die alone. I know we all die alone ultimately, in our own deteriorating memory bubbles. But I'm talking about someone just to hold your hand. A family member, a loved one. We all try to get there at the end, don't we? There's only been movies, countless movies, and I hate the term countless, but I'm just saying it anyway to be rhetorical, of people who had to drop everything because a family member or a loved one was in their last days and they had to get there. And now, all we are left with is maybe a text. Maybe. And our loved ones, or maybe even ourselves, will die with just a mental connection, an emotional connection, and we will hope that is enough. Whether we are the ones leaving this temporal plane of existence, or we are the loved ones watching the passing of another loved one. And I got to tell you, all of this could have been avoided if we didn't have a racist in the White House right now who had to undo everything the black guy did because the black guy did it. What's on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Well, I got to tell you, Brianna Keiler, I'm liking her more and more because she, Peter Navarro and that whole group, aren't they a bunch of thugs and bullies and just whining all the time? They're so aggrieved. You're yapping in my ear, bitch. Yeah, because you're not answering the question, you stoop. Well, she wasn't having any of it, and he lied over and over, and he's pushing out that racist meme. We better call it what it is. On the rest of the menu, using the pandemic as cover, the EPA has abruptly stopped enforcing environmental laws. Because if we're getting poisoned by a virus, who cares about methane, carbon monoxide, and H2S? Huh? Who cares? Corporate health insurance has proved to be a travesty in the face of coronavirus. Well, I could have told you that before this happened, and everybody did. And after proclaiming, "I'll be the oversight," Congress locked Trump out of the $2.2 trillion, that's with a T, trillion-dollar rescue plan for American businesses. You will not do any oversight. Not at all. And I got to say, they checked the fine print. And even though it was supposed to keep Trump and his family from making a few bucks, the fine print, still, as far as I can tell, shows that some of his properties can still get some relief funds. I hope that they figure out that drafting error. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where Australia just introduced an enforced 2-week quarantine for returning citizens. Anybody returning to Australia, especially by aircraft, will be put in a hotel in the city they landed for 2 weeks. And a false belief in Iran that a poison can cure coronavirus has killed hundreds. Wow. Sort of resonates with what's happening here, too, isn't it? All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. homepage at netrootsradio.com. Right there by the social media scroll is our chat room link, monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly, for monitoring the chat room and so much more. Thank you. And also, she had a birthday here this week, too, so hope folks wish her a belated happy birthday as well. To the leftish of the chat room link at the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com. There is our link to our Patreon page, and do please become a recurring Patreon of Netroots Radio. If you could afford the cost, even in these perilous times, I know it's tough right now. Finances are probably sketchy at best, isn't it? But if you could afford an espresso-type coffee drink, even now, and send it our way, your generosity, recurring month by month, helps us pay our bills. And we still got to get machinery, and we're slowly phasing them in as I speak. And the software doesn't come cheap. In fact, nothing is for free. Wow. But thank you for your generosity after all these many years. We are in our 9th year of continuous 24/7, 365 resistance broadcasting, as the founders originally intended, so many decades, almost an eon ago now. All right, so once again, thank you for your generosity, and if you could afford it still, in spite of what is going on out here in the world, we promise to put your funds that you put into our hands to excellent democratic use. We take it seriously. It is our civic duty, after all. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on Twitter, do so at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of that and a lot of the graphics. In fact, all of the graphics, I might add. And thank you, Tom, for taking care of that Twitter platform and everything else. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, do so at Justice Putnam. And why don't you? Because I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Co's. While we can still do diaries, I've been looking at the beta for, what is it now, Deco 7, Deco's 800,000? I can't figure it out. But anyway, diaries might be going away. At least with any, it might be tough to find them. Let's put it that way. Darn. Well, we'll see. It's still beta. Okay. But I post the show notes and links diary on Daily Co's about 10 minutes before showtime, and then get that linked up on social media, except, of course, for Facebook, in which I'm still locked out. Oh, little quick tidbit of info here. One of the anti-abortionists, or actually a couple of the anti-abortionists, who in not necessarily consort, but around the same time as some Trump brats came in, who were also very instrumental in getting myself and in general Netroots Radio, at least Netroots Radio's slowed down in its Facebook presence. But I'm locked out for, it looks like, another, 17, 18 days. And the anti-abortionists who had taken over that page are now suing Josephine County. I live in Jackson County, which is Medford, Ashland, Rogue River. Josephine County is just mere miles, just a mile or so away, the county line. That's Grants Pass. So we usually go to Grants Pass instead of Medford because Grants Pass is closer. Anyway, these anti-abortionists are suing Grants Pass, or Josephine County, the Sheriff's Department, and a few others for the government violating their First Amendment rights to speech, because they were relegated to a free speech zone while they used bullhorns to harass the farmers market, to harass the First Friday art events, to harass the little kids chalk drawing on the sidewalk on Saturday events. They were asked kindly, you can go do it over here, okay, in this free speech zone, which, if you're a liberal, you're put into a free speech zone. I think that's called jail. But here, it was really just an area. Yeah, you can use your bullhorn to your heart's content. But that wasn't enough. They got a lawyer who said that this has to stop. Well, I think maybe we could get some discovery from Facebook about how these two game the Facebook algorithm, and Zuckerberg is perfectly fine with it, because no matter how many complaints are lodged against these guys, they never get suspended. And any liberal who calls them I think I referred to them as, maybe I used the F word. But this is America, okay? Anyway, they're mail-order tax dodge divinity licensed street preachers. And they were described as such in the local press. So they are suing, and I'm thinking, maybe it should be known to the county or someone that these fellows are certainly have no standing to stand on when they've been instrumental in suppressing the free press under the auspices of religion, when they don't even have a religion. They have a tax dodge divinity license. Came from mail order, too. All right. If you would like to follow the show on Twitter, do so at Cookbook West, and pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, and wherever fine podcasts can be found, mixed in with all the rest of us. All right, we're just burning up time, but it is Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, and we do have the French 77s, and I have not been imbibing, but it's a salon, and we're going to take as long as it takes, within an hour, of course. This first offering in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is out of the Associated Press by Ellen Nickmeyer. The EPA abruptly waived enforcement yesterday, Thursday, on a range of legally mandated public health and environmental protections, saying industries could have trouble complying with them during the coronavirus pandemic. Well, this is when you have to be complying by them. All right. This is Wheeler, I think. They, one of those lobbyist types. The oil and gas industry was among the industries that had sought an advanced relaxation of environmental and public health enforcement during the outbreak, citing potential staffing problems. If we have to keep 6 feet away, we won't be able to do our jobs when we usually do our jobs alone in a truck burning up gas by ourselves. Okay. The EPA's decision was sweeping, foregoing fines or other civil penalties for companies that fail to monitor, report, or meet some other requirements for releasing hazardous pollutants. If we're being killed by a pandemic, then we have no problem breathing poisonous air, drinking poisonous water, and growing our food in poisonous soil. The move was the latest and one of the broadest regulation-easing moves by the EPA, which is seeking to roll back dozens of regulations as part of Trump's purge of rules that the administration sees as unfriendly to business. Well, you know what's unfriendly to business? Death. Civil and criminal enforcement of polluters under the administration has fallen sharply, and now guess what? We're being killed by a pandemic, too. Archer of the Independent Media Institute brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. Tens of thousands of Americans are now sick from the novel coronavirus. Over 1,000 have already died. Swift testing and treatment are essential to protect the health of Americans, particularly older adults and people with disabilities who are most at risk. But Medicare Advantage plans, health plans run by corporate health insurers to deliver Medicare benefits, continue to impose financial and procedural obstacles to coronavirus treatment that is threatening the public health. Consequently, we can assume that many of the 24 million Americans with Medicare Advantage plans are not able to access testing, let alone treatment. and thus are infecting others. As is the case for at least 1 in 4 people with corporate health insurance, high out-of-pocket costs lead older adults in Medicare Advantage plans to skip or delay treatment. Well, every person infected with coronavirus will infect 3 to 4 other people, and people with Medicare Advantage, 1 in 4 of them are somehow... Wow, these numbers are correlating a little too close for my comfort. Medicare Advantage plans have never released data on actual out-of-pocket costs for people with different medical conditions, but by law, these costs can be as high as $6,700 a year for in-network care alone and unlimited for out-of-network care. In 2016, 30 million people with Medicare had annual incomes below $26,200 and 15 million had incomes below $15,250. The federal government should require that Medicare Advantage plans cover the full cost of coronavirus treatment, but it has not done so. Rather, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has only issued guidance to these private plans, suggesting that they waive the costs of treatment and eliminate other barriers to care, including prior authorization requirements. Well, that guidance appears to have fallen on deaf ears. Jolinek and Matthew Daly of the Associated Press bring us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Donald Trump declared that "I'll be the oversight" as lawmakers were in the final days of drafting what became a $2.2 trillion rescue plan for American businesses. In the end, Congress ensured that won't be the case. The legislation, designed in part to help businesses and corporations hammered by closures due to the coronavirus pandemic, creates multiple layers of accountability for the billions of dollars in loans, grants, and direct cash that will soon flow from the federal government. The House is expected to pass it today and send it to Trump for his signature, but we'll see, because one idiot by the name of Massey, a repug, is calling everybody back to infect everybody because he shook hands with Rand, and he wants to shake hands with everybody as they take a vote on whether to get this $2.2 trillion rescue plan through. Even some of the most staunch Republicans, like Peter King, he's pissed off. He didn't name Massey, he just said some irresponsible congressperson. It was Massey. The new oversight system will test the relationship between the White House and Congress, which frayed. Really? It wasn't already? After Democrats won the House and deteriorated severely during Trump's impeachment, as officials flouted requests for witnesses and documents. Excuse me, AP. It's not officials. It was the Trump administration flaunting it. Please. This both-siderism is killing me. Trump's assertion of responsibility for the coronavirus funds came on Monday evening as his Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, was on Capitol Hill crafting the package. In late-night meetings with Democratic leader of the Senate, Chuck Schumer. Senate Majority Leader Mitch Moscow. Mitch, I am the Grim Reaper, and this is my graveyard McConnell. And House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Happy birthday, Nancy. You and I share the same birthday. I'm an Aries for entertainment purposes only now, of course. And had each introduced their own proposals, and Democrats said the Republican bill wasn't strong enough, arguing that it would create a slush fund for corporations. And the White House said, well, yeah. In the end, the bipartisan final package incorporated much of what Democrats wanted, creating a trio of watchdogs plus other checks to try to ensure the money isn't misused. They'll try, but will you ever get a witness approved by the White House to testify that the funds have been misused? Will you? All right, we better get to our break, and when we get back from that break, we are going to go through weather from around the world, because there's lots of weather, and we will finish up with the stories that we have curated for you today, because we curate. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, a tabloid story comes to life. Postponed from a Fall 19 release to coincide with March Madness, the new movie The Way Back is a basketball drama/redemption story. It stars Ben Affleck in a career-high performance as Jack Cunningham, a former high school hoop star who finds himself, 25 years down the road, being tasked by his alma mater with a seemingly hopeless coaching situation. The years haven't been kind to Jack, who's now a full-blown alcoholic working construction between swigs. It's a ways into the film, maybe a bit too far, before we find out the triggering event for his descent. But the coaching gig turns out to be, well, the way back for him. There are a million ways for a plot like this to turn into a melodramatic airball, but director Gavin O'Connor, who worked with Affleck on The Accountant, manages to avoid having this happen. Driving the film is Affleck's portrayal of Jack Cunningham. Given Affleck's well-publicized challenges, it's obvious that he identifies with the character, and his depiction of Jack's alcohol-related rituals and explosive anger seems more heartfelt than researched. The basketball story involves a Catholic League team from Bishop Hayes High School in the working-class Torrance, California area, which has fallen on hard times due to falling enrollment. The nearly winless, less than 10-man squad manages the de rigueur season turnaround amidst friction with the school's administration, often to good comedic effect, and there's a loosely parallel subplot concerning the place of the game in life. In The Way Back, Hoosiers meets Manchester by the Sea, which starred Affleck's brother Casey back in 2016, and tells a formulaic story in a way that avoids simple formulaic answers. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Bob Hirschon. Getting a handle on how COVID-19 is spreading across the country is difficult because current models are based on people who have been tested. Since tests for the disease are limited and not distributed evenly, there's no way to know quite how the disease is spreading. But now you can help solve this problem, thanks to researchers at Boston Children's Hospital and Harvard. Working with Google and other partners, they've introduced COVID Near You, a website where everyone can report on how they're feeling.
Capturing on-the-ground information in real time from the public really can give us a sense of what's happening at the community level. And it also gives the public an opportunity to contribute back to public health.
That's Kara Sewak at Boston Children's Hospital. She's program manager for COVID Near You. She says your input goes into a national map that updates constantly, showing exactly how the disease is progressing.
This type of data will be useful in terms of predictive modeling of understanding where potential hotspots currently exist or could exist in the next few weeks to few months to however long the outbreak continues.
The site's useful for the public as well.
But we also really were inspired to create a tool where users can get an idea of COVID-related symptoms in their local area. We want users to learn about potential areas that could be highly affected by this pandemic. And I think it gives an opportunity to see what's happening at the national scale, too, from symptom-reported data from others just like them across the U.S.
Participating is easy. Just go to the website covidnearyou.org and let them know if you're feeling great or sick. If you're not feeling well, they have a few follow-up questions.
And we also want users to continually report in. You know, it's helpful to have people come back to the website week after week to continue to report in symptoms that they may or may not be experiencing. Even if you're healthy, that type of information is extremely valuable for us to know. So that's why we created our feature where users can actually submit their phone number to receive text reminders to continue to report their health status.
It takes only a minute each week to help researchers track COVID-19. If you want to check it out, go to covidnearyou.org. That's COVID near you.org. Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Bob Hirschon.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
What does the coronavirus teach us about our election system? I'm Bill Newman, and this is the Civil Liberties Minute. On Tuesday, March 17th, Arizona, Florida, and Illinois held their primaries as planned, but Ohio postponed its primary, as have other states, including Georgia, Maryland, and Louisiana, and for good and not pretextual reasons. The coronavirus could put at risk voters and poll workers, and fear of being infected by the virus could keep many voters away from the polls altogether. But actually going to the polls should not be a prerequisite for voting. Some states allow voting by mail. Absentee ballots traditionally required a good reason why the voter couldn't vote on Election Day, but some states are now allowing no excuse necessary absentee ballots. And some states allow early voting, which increases turnout and would reduce the possibility of infection and fear of being infected. The failure to disallow early voting, no excuse absentee voting, and voting by mail, as a practical matter, these function as a method of voter suppression. Of course, none of these methods for allowing people to vote is required, even though these methods enhance voter participation and democratic principles and the constitutional principle of one person, one vote. Nonetheless, not having these methods of voting still conforms to the laws of the states where the voting occurs, and those laws will remain in effect unless and until they are changed. The Civil Liberties Minute is made possible by the ACLU because freedom can't protect itself.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2002. That was the day that the U.S. Supreme Court handed down its decision in the case Hoffman Plastic Compound Incorporated versus the National Labor Relations Board. This case had profound importance for undocumented workers in the United States. The conflict began 14 years before, as the United Cork Linoleum and Plastic Workers of America began an organizing drive at Hoffman. The California company made plastic pipeworks. Hoffman retaliated by firing all the employees that supported the union. One of those fired was Jose Castro, an undocumented worker. The fired workers took their case to the National Labor Relations Board, where they won. The board ruled that the company had to provide back pay for the workers it had unfairly fired. This ruling included Castro. The company decided to fight the decision, and the case wound its way through the courts for a decade. Finally, it arrived on the Supreme Court docket. The highest court in the land ruled in favor of the company in a 5-4 decision. It ruled that as an undocumented worker, Castro could not claim back pay. Writing for the dissent, Justice Stephen Breyer warned that the decision, quote, might very well increase the strength of this magnetic force of undocumented migration. If employers do not worry about the penalties for breaking the law that protect workers, they might be more likely to hire undocumented labor. 10 years after the case, an article in the Princeton Law Review called the decision, quote, a powerful legal symbol of exclusion of immigrant workers. Trying to divide the workforce has long been a tactic of owners determined to break the power of labor.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all night hawks in the Diner of Life. We always begin, whether from around the world, along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 40 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting a high of around 55 degrees. There is rain and snow in the region and in the immediate area. Looks like we are supposed to have a snowy mix pretty much between, a couple of hours from now and early this afternoon. And then later on tonight, we're expecting about 1/10 of an inch of rain with cloudy this evening and showers tonight. Lows near 40s, winds light and variable today and tonight. And we'll pick up out of the south at 5 to 10 miles per hour, bringing with it about a 1/4 inch of rain on Saturday and another 1/4 inch of rain on Sunday. And it looks like we may have some snow at elevations, though the daytime high, at least where the mothership resides, will be in the mid-50s. We have 4 confirmed cases of coronavirus here in Jackson County in Southern Oregon. Deceased is none. And yes. Grass pollen is moderate. The air quality index in the region is rated good at 21 parts per million, and the daytime UV index is moderate at 5. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.12 inches. Visibility is down to 6 miles. And relative humidity is at 82%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. London is 57 degrees sunny with coronavirus. Paris is 57 degrees and sunny with coronavirus. Rome is 58 degrees, mostly cloudy with increasing numbers of coronavirus, especially in the southern parts of Italy. Kyiv is 60 degrees and fair with coronavirus, but not as many cases as they have because they're still under the thumb of Vlad. Kabul is 52 degrees and fair with coronavirus. Hong Kong is 72 and mostly cloudy with mostly a lot of coronavirus. Tokyo is 65 degrees, cloudy and windy with a lot of coronavirus. Sydney, Australia is 63 degrees, mostly cloudy with a lot of coronavirus. San Francisco, California, 48 degrees and fair with coronavirus. And New York is 58 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny and not enough ventilators for all the coronavirus. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people positively live around the world. Kate Lamb and Swati Pandey of Reuters bring us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Australia is introducing enforced quarantine for citizens returning home from overseas and will deploy the armed forces to ensure people already subjected to self-isolation measures are complying. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said that returning Australians accounted for about 2/3 of the country's more than 3,000 coronavirus cases, making it the biggest issue to be addressed in the country's fight against the pandemic. As time has gone on, the risk of those who are returning from other parts of the world actually increases, Morrison said in a televised briefing. Australia has already closed its borders to everyone but Australian citizens or residents returning home. Those returnees will now be detained in a hotel for 2 weeks rather than trusted to go home and self-isolate.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer. Mes automnes, quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
Nasser Karimi and John Gambrell of the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Standing over the still body of an intubated 5-year-old boy wearing nothing but a plastic diaper, an Iranian healthcare worker in a hazmat suit and mask begged the public for just one thing: stop drinking industrial alcohol over fears about the new coronavirus. The boy, now blind after his parents gave him toxic methanol in the mistaken belief it protects against the virus, is just one of hundreds of victims of an epidemic inside the pandemic now gripping Iran. Iranian media report nearly 300 people have been killed and more than 1,000 sickened so far by ingesting methanol, where drinking alcohol is banned and where those who do rely on bootleggers. An Iranian doctor helping the country's health ministry said on Friday today the problem was even greater, giving the death toll of around 480, with almost 3,000 people sickened. The poisonings come as fake remedies spread across social media, where people remain deeply suspicious of the government after it downplayed the crisis for days before it overwhelmed the country. Sounds familiar now, doesn't it? Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day and for the week, but you do know that Netroots Radio will broadcast on. In fact, we'll meet up on Monday for River City Hash Mondays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we'll meet up on Monday right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum.